You probably think a Ford F-150 is the ultimate American truck. It's built in the U.S., sold in the U.S., and driven across all 50 states. But here's the twist. This American-made truck is actually a global product. Every F-150 you see on the road is made up of thousands of parts from all over the world. Over 24 countries contribute to its production. And with Trump's 25% auto tariffs, that global supply chain is getting slammed. Let's start with the basics. The F-150's alternator, it comes from Mexico. The half shafts that send power to the wheels, Canada. The wheels themselves, Mexico again. And the tires, they're South Korean. Even more critical parts like the transmission can involve suppliers from up to 7 different countries. For example, a single transmission built by a Canadian manufacturer, Linamar, crosses the U.S. border 7 times before it's installed in a truck. 7, and that's just one part. Trump's goal is clear: bring back American manufacturing and pressure automakers to build cars and all the parts that go into them right here in the United States. But turning a global supply chain into a local one isn't as easy as flipping a switch. One auto expert compared the task to lifting the entire state of Maine and moving it to Wyoming. Technically possible, but exhausting, expensive, and extremely slow. Now, here's the problem. These tariffs don't just hit imported cars. They also target any vehicle made in the U.S. using foreign parts. That includes the F-150. So even if Ford builds the truck in Michigan, any parts sourced from outside the country adds to the cost. And that cost? It's going straight to the consumer. How much are you paying? Let's break down the costs, because this is where things start to bite. Even if your next truck rolls off an assembly line in the U.S., it's not escaping the price tag. Let's get back to the Ford F-150. It's built in America, it's marketed as America's truck, but now it could carry an extra $6,000 in cost just from tariffs on parts and materials that cross borders. As we mentioned, nearly every F-150 has critical components made outside the country. The 25% tariffs on imported parts under Trump's order apply to every one of those. According to estimates from Cox Automotive, the tariffs on Mexico and Canada alone could tack on about $3,000. Throw in another $3,000 for foreign-sourced parts from elsewhere. That's $6,000. We haven't even touched the materials yet. Let's talk aluminum. The F-150 is one of the most aluminum-intensive vehicles in the industry. Ford redesigned the truck years ago with a high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy body to reduce weight and improve fuel efficiency. That change wasn't just about performance. It was about meeting federal fuel economy and emissions standards. But there's a catch. Aluminum might be rolled into sheets in the U.S. plants, but most of the raw metal still comes from outside the country, especially Canada. In fact, about 75% of the aluminum used by U.S. automakers originates from Canadian smelters. Under Trump's tariffs, all that imported aluminum is now subject to a 25% tax. The aluminum content in a typical F-150 is over 500 pounds. That includes the hood, doors, tailgate, and truck bed. Multiply that by a 25% surcharge on the cost of aluminum per pound, and you're looking at hundreds of dollars in added materials cost per vehicle just from the body alone. That's only part of the story. Steel is still king when it comes to chassis, frame, and internal structure. It accounts for about half of a vehicle's total weight. Ford sources about 90% of its steel from U.S. suppliers, but the remaining 10%, often specialty steel or items with specific tolerances, still comes from abroad. That 10% now costs more under Trump's steel tariffs. For the average vehicle, this adds around $400 to the final build cost, according to research from Barclays. But it's not just about buying a new car, it's everything that comes after. When car parts cost more, insurance companies adjust. Repairs become more expensive, body shops charge more for labor and materials. Those new aluminum fenders, more costly to replace. Bumpers built with imported components, same story. That price increase trickles down into your monthly premiums. In fact, a projection from Insurify estimates average U.S. car insurance premiums could rise to $2,759, a 19% jump from the end of 2024. That follows an 11% year-over-year increase just the previous February, making auto insurance one of the fastest-growing household expenses in the Consumer Price Index. It's even tougher for compact cars. While trucks like the F-150 are largely built in the U.S., models like the Ford Maverick and Bronco Sport are assembled in Mexico. They're hit head-on by both vehicle and parts tariffs. Analysts at Wedbush Securities predict that smaller models could see their prices jump by $5,000 to $10,000 right from the start. Now think about what happens next. Cars get more expensive, fewer people buy, demand drops, automakers cut back production, and that means job cuts, not just in manufacturing, but in shipping, retail, advertising, and aftermarket support. This is how a single tariff ripples across the entire auto ecosystem. why moving production isn't that easy. So why don't automakers just move everything to the US? That's what Trump is pushing for, right? Well, it's not that simple. You can't just pick up a factory in Mexico and drop it in Ohio. First, you need land, lots of it. A modern auto assembly plant can take up to 1,000 to 2,000 acres. You need permits. That alone can take 6 to 12 months. After that, building the plant can take up to 2 years. Then you still need to install all the tools, run safety tests, build out the local supply chain, hire thousands of workers, and start production. Even with everything in place, companies can't skip the quality checks. Every part has to be tested and certified. You don't get to rush that just because it's inconvenient. One wrong move and you're looking at recalls, injuries, or worse. Take Ford's 2019 Explorer launch as an example. The company spent $1 billion to retool its Illinois plant in just 30 days. It was one of the fastest overhauls in Ford's history, and it was a disaster. The vehicle rollout was plagued with issues, costing Ford billions in repairs and lost sales. Rushing production doesn't always pay off. Now, look at new plant construction. Hyundai's new $12.6 billion Meta plant in Georgia took 2.5 years to build, and that's considered lightning fast. Most new facilities take 4 years or more from site selection to production. Jeep's Detroit facility, which launched in 2021, took a similar time frame and $1.6 billion in investment. Even smaller supplier plants take years to plan and build, and many of them only work efficiently when they're close to larger vehicle plants. It's not just about making parts, it's about moving them quickly and cheaply. That's why the US, Mexico, and Canada were turned into a free trade zone in the first place. It made things easier. Now, that whole model is under pressure. And while Trump hopes this pressure leads to American jobs, what is really pushing automakers toward is automation. What comes next? If you follow the industry, you know that robots are taking over. Automakers have been investing in automation for years to boost efficiency and cut labor costs. And now, with tariffs raising the price of everything else, that shift is moving even faster. When factories come back to the US, they don't always bring workers with them. They bring machines, and that makes a big difference. More automation means fewer jobs, even in places where new plants open. You might see the factory lights turn back on, but the parking lot won't be nearly as full. Still, not everyone's against the tariffs. The United Auto Workers Union backed the move, saying it forces automakers to prioritize American labor. But even they know the future of auto jobs isn't what it used to be. The jobs are changing, and not all of them will come back. Meanwhile, companies are stuck in limbo. They're trying to plan for the future, but no one knows how long these tariffs will last or whether they'll get stricter. That uncertainty alone costs real money. Automakers are spending more on warehousing, logistics, and backups than ever before. They're stocking parts they may not need, holding on to supplies they can't use, and burning cash on delays. All this is happening while global competition is heating up, especially from China. China's already overtaken the U.S. as the world's largest vehicle exporter. They're fast, efficient, and scaling quickly. While the U.S. debates tariffs, China's automakers are winning new markets. And here's the bottom line. In today's auto world, it's not the big companies that win. It's the fast ones, the ones that adapt. That's what makes this moment so risky, because as American companies scramble to adjust to new tariffs, their global rivals are pulling ahead. So, what does a 25% tariff really mean? It means your F-150 might not be as affordable or American as it looks. And as the industry reshuffles, the real question becomes, will these changes rebuild American manufacturing or just drive it away?